baseball, Blue Jays, and more baseball. It's The Walk-Off with Scott Belford and Adam Mack.
This ball is crushed.
The Die Hard podcast for the casual fan.
And another one. My goodness.
So there it is, YouTube listeners. That is our intro that our audio listeners get every single time. That's, of course, Drew Bame, our voice for the intro. And I know we brought him up on Friday's podcast because he was live at the Rogers Center and working with Breakfast Television. So for all of you who were wondering what that intro we were talking about, there it is for you.
There it is. Let us know if you want that every single episode, and we can make it happen. So,
Blue Jays baseball.
I love it. Drew's the best. So
Welcome
talented. All right,
to the walk-off. Monday
morning,
mailbag.
Monday morning mailbag every Tuesday afternoon. Here we go. Before we get to all the comments, this one comes from Jordan, so just kind of related to the intro here. So Jordan sent me this clip on TikTok, and basically it is this portly young fellow as a base runner on second base, and you see the pitch come in, it brushes the batter back, and he takes this massive step backwards to avoid the beanball. And the base runner on second, unimpressed, just screeching, "Let it hit you." It's a great clip. Anyways, So Jordan suggested that we somehow incorporate the shriek into the next version of our intro. So,
Which you love.
Which I love that idea. Yes, I love that idea. So we'll talk to Drew. Okay, so before we get going now, let's just do a quick shout out to our Patreon before we get rolling. So a shout out to everyone who supports us on Patreon. We love you. Sorry for the delay on March's movie review. That's A League of Their Own. Scott and I have recorded it. I just have to do the editing. And now with my daughter and her mom's this week, I will finally get to it. And then as far as April goes, we have Moneyball is the movie review that we're doing. And we will be having a guest feature from Hey Kami. So Joel will be joining us. His favorite movie of all time. He says he's seen it like literally 100 times. I guess we'll see, but that'll be out soon. $4 a month is what it costs to support us over there, and you get all of our movie reviews. We have Bull Durham, we have Mr. Baseball, we have Major League, which is probably our favorite we've done so far, A League of Their Own, and then soon adding to the list is Moneyball. Doing a baseball movie every month this year. And then maybe into next year, we'll just broaden things into sports movies in general, but we'll see how that goes. $4 a month gets you all that. Also gets you a shiny golden name bar for our Discord to just kind of flex on everybody else in the Discord and
Really show your importance. Yes.
Really show that you're important and that we like you that much more. So, anyways, that is the Patreon shout out. So thank you there. We got a lot to get to today. A lot of comments.
Yes, and we do just want to say thank you very much for all the interaction. You can, of course, follow us on Twitter or DM us there at Walk Off Podcast. Same goes for Instagram, the Walk Off Podcast. And, of course, we always comb through the comments on YouTube. It's always appreciated when you do comment and like and subscribe. I know how annoying that is to hear from YouTubers, but here we are, old and YouTubing, so we're going to do the job.
There you go. So I was, after the start to this season, we're 3-1.
Yes, sir.
An impressive comeback against Texas there on opening night. I really expected when I did my combing through the comments this morning to be like, well, this is sure going to be a fluffy episode with like, oh, this guy's so great and we love everything and it's all happiness. There was some
Not
heat
so much.
over the past week that we got to get to. So let's start with Jose Ramirez. Let's just address this one last time and then hopefully not again for a while. So when Jose Ramirez signed his, in my opinion, team-friendly contract, the 5-year extension there, I released a video without talking to you about it, Scott, so you're not on the hook for this. This is entirely on me. But my tone of the video was that the Jays should still go after him with this new extension. He does have a no-trade clause. It is a quote-unquote long-term deal. And I kind of got roasted for having that take.
You did get roasted. In fact, I even had people on Twitter. I know one stood out to me, a regular listener at Brant J's fan 49, I think it is, on Twitter. Either way, he even tweeted at us and was like, at walk-off, stop it, guys. Just stop it. Jose Ramirez is done. Stop it.
Love it. So, okay, I think that speaks more to the Jose Ramirez to the Jays fatigue that has set in, because it has been nonstop. Oh, are the Jays going to get him? The Jays are so close. The Jays are making a move. We're moving pieces. He didn't like Reese McGuire, so we got rid of Reese McGuire. Now it's going to happen for sure. You know, tuning into a Spanish Instagram live, hoping for details on a rumor that, like, it was exhaustion is the only way.
It was insanity.
So
what I loved about the Reese McGuire thing, by the way, was completely made up by Wins and Flosses on Twitter, where he was like, he was just messing around and being like, hey, and then it took off, and then Jays fans were like, this is real.
Yeah. So I really think that there is an appetite to be done with it, right? Like it is like when you're going through a bad breakup and it's kind of like an on again, off again thing, and like you get back together for a night and then your friends are bugging you the next day, like, what are you doing with her, man, or him, or whatever.
This isn't good for your mental health.
Yeah, right? And so like there is that want to just be done with it, to like just move on and accept that, like, no, this is our team moving forward, let's embrace it. And I do think that is true, and let's put value in that. But I do want to defend my take on this, that this contract does not, to me, mean he's going to be a Guardian for the next 7 years, or however long the contract was. I still think that this is a very tradable contract, despite the no trade clause. I think the no trade clause... So for me, if I'm Jose Ramirez, I feel like I'm getting traded. Like, going into this contract negotiation, I feel like a trade is inevitable, right? Whether it's to the Padres, to the Blue Jays, to whoever the highest bidder is come June or July, right? So I feel like that is why I took the discount on the years and I guess the annual average value, right? Was it $25 million a year as opposed to, like, he should have gotten 30, right? I don't think it was no, I want to be a Guardian forever and this is a way to make it happen. I do feel like that was the price that needs to be paid in order to get that no trade clause in the contract. That was a trade-off.
That's what it was too, right? Is it he wanted the cards in his hands.
Right.
So whether he gets traded or not, he decides. Where he goes, whether he waives that trade clause, he decides.
Yeah.
So now if he does, for whatever reason, decide he'd like to be a Guardian until he retires at 37 or whatever, or, you know, he has that option. But he also has the option to, let's say he didn't wish to go to the Jays or the Yankees or whoever is in on him. Yeah. He now has the ability to be like, well, I have a hard no trade. You can't do that without me waiving it. I think Jose Ramirez is still going to be a Cleveland Guardian for a year or two now. I think this does prolong his stint with Cleveland. However, it's the Guardians.
Yeah.
This is the biggest contract they have ever put out in history
of
the franchise.
And to me, that's where, like, I guess I stray from the mainstream interpretation of this contract. The main term interpretation that I've seen put out there is that, like, the Guardians want to make Jose Ramirez the cornerstone of this rebuild, right? But he's pretty old for that, in my opinion, for one, if they are going to do like a full rebuild and have a 30-year-old be the cornerstone. But I digress. I do think that there is, like, hey, we've rebranded the team. We're not the Indians anymore. We're the Guardians. We got to sell Guardians jerseys. We got to, you know, build some hype.
Jose Ramirez is a superstar.
Yes, right? So let's lean into that asset. Let's show the fan base that, like, hey, we're committed and blah, blah, blah. But it still feels like smoke and mirrors and a bit of bullshit. So I do think that there's something fucky with this contract. I don't think this really changes whether he's a Guardian at the end of the year, even, to be honest. I don't know. Like, maybe that is a bit of a stretch to say I still think he's going to be traded by this trade deadline. But I do know one thing, and that's that no trade clauses are built to be waived. I mean, it's an infinitely long list of players with no trade clauses who, guess what, have been traded. And I think that is the biggest thing with that is that he gets to say, look, I don't want to go to the West Coast for whatever reason. I want to stay out East. I got my family, whatever the case may be, right? Like, you can trade me, but I'm only going to this team, or this team. Let your bidding war begin with those 3 teams, or whatever the case may be. So, I don't know. I still think the Jays should be in on him. I think that's a super team-friendly contract, and I think that only drives the trade value up.
Yeah.
Because all the trade value was superstar with 2 years of control. Now it's superstar with 5, 6, 7 years of control.
Agreed. So we will move on here, but I did want to just end this with your take was not that outlandish. I think that I think the pushback was truly, like we said off the top, a fatigue of Ramirez to the Jays talk. I'm done with it. I don't even want to talk about it again for the rest of the year. I love this team as is. I think if there is any holes come the trade deadline, they are going to be addressed. I don't think they need to be addressed in bringing in a top 10 player. I think that just shoring up weaknesses is probably how this front office is going to go about it. But I also don't think you're wrong in that obviously the Jays have showed a ton of interest in Ramirez, and they're not alone on that. And obviously now the cards are in J-Ram's hands, and if he chooses to go somewhere, that is on him and not on the Guardians anymore. Okay.
All right. So moving on now to some more heat. So this one comes in from Diego, who commented on our interview with David Samson. By the way, go check that out. We had a good 45-minute interview with him last week. Really good conversation. So Diego, I love the passion behind this comment, by the way. So Diego says, David Samson, the one who destroyed my Montreal Expos with his gawky stepfather, Jeffrey Loria. David Samson, the pet. Get the hell out. We know who you are. Nothing had changed. Mother Butler, get the hell out. So Diego didn't like the interview with David Samson. Some personal reasons attached behind that. Now, I can't entirely speak to the Expos leaving situation and the sale of the Expos. I know there was lawsuits surrounding the sale of the Expos, and that, you know, David Samson had a lot of personal heat aimed at him in regards to tampering and some shady
accusations. Absolutely. There was even that big lawsuit for sure.
So I can't speak to that. What I can speak to is I do love that Montreal has one passionate baseball fan.
Yeah.
So that's
there
cool.
are still people who miss and love the Expos and are diehards. I feel for Montreal.
Me too.
And I remember as a kid too when all of the talk of the Expos leaving was happening. So let's start with when this talk was happening. There was also a bunch of talk of the Winnipeg Jets leaving Winnipeg.
Right.
And I remember the Jets had a massive rally to keep the Jets. And they had what pushed 100,000 people show up to this rally, all with signs and cheering and hoping that the Jets would hear these fans and it would help keep them stick around. Of course, that's not how it unfolded. I do also remember a similar rally being held for the Expos in Montreal, and they had 300 people show up to keep the team. And then every interview they had with these people on the street, they were all like, yeah, it's too bad, but, you know, this is a hockey town. Hey, hockey town! So, as much as the hardcore Expos fans do put that hate and that reason that they left on Laurier and Samson, I mean, nobody showed up to the games, right?
Yeah.
And there were a lot of other problems, stadium, location, all that sort of stuff, right? But anyways.
I don't know. Because we've talked to Anthony Telford about this, former Expo. We've talked to countless people about, does Montreal even deserve another MLB franchise? And I'm firmly in the camp that they do.
Yeah.
Like, I know the reason that everybody points to as to why they don't is you know, if you let your team leave in the first place, you don't deserve a second chance, right? And like I do see the merit in that opinion, but also I think that was so long ago that the people who would be supporting a Montreal Expos right now weren't old enough to buy tickets when they left.
Yeah.
Right? We're talking about literal toddlers or people who weren't even born yet, who are now the, 18 to 35-year-old demographic who has that disposable income, who can go to games and stuff, right? So if those are the people who want the Expos, to punish them because their mom and dad or whatever the case may be didn't support the team, I don't buy into that. So I do think that Montreal deserves another shot at a franchise. And I think when we asked David about it, he laid out some pretty, sound details on what Montreal needs to do to get it done, right? They got to build a stadium. They got to, get some proper sponsorship deals in place, right? So
TV deal was a big one that he brought up.
Yeah.
I really like the idea of Montreal being given an opportunity to get a team again, and this may upset and ruffle the French Canadians out there, but I think Vancouver is actually a better location, and it has nothing to do with language or anything like that. I just think that the market on the West Coast for another team, it would fit better with baseball, and I think the travel is better, and the weather is better. I think Vancouver would be a phenomenal place for another MLB team, but anyways, I would be thrilled for anyone in Canada to get a team. I think Montreal would be great. There'd be that history and that nostalgia that goes to it. And I mean, baseball's about as romantic as you can get anyway, so it would be pretty cool.
Well, I mean, and I'll just end with this before I move on here, but the idea of a second Canadian team getting a massive nationwide TV deal isn't a wild speculation. I mean, Rogers has Sportsnet, but Bell has TSN.
Yeah.
Right? TSN's dying for content. So,
yes, they are.
I don't know. Get Bell involved with the Vancouver Expos and have, 162 games on TSN, going head to head with Blue Jays games or whatever. I don't know. But hey, here's another thing. If we do go to Vancouver, a West Coast team and an East Coast team, those games don't even have to happen at the same time. So we're talking 6 days a week where we just get double headers.
Oh,
right?
It would be a beautiful thing. And on top of that, with Montreal, the Jays and the Expos would be in the exact same division. That is for sure how they would set it up. Mm-hmm. And at least with a Vancouver team, we could cheer on Vancouver and still be able to be Jays fans. And because that's the thing, right? Divisional rivals, like as much as I would want to cheer for both, you'd have to pick eventually, right? Yeah.
You can't. Yeah, exactly. All right, so let's move on from that. So, again, more heat coming our way. So this comes from Discord with this heat. So there are some positive comments, I promise. We'll get there, Scott. But this comes from 33 Dogs on Discord, so I'm not sure where the other 78 dogs are. But so 33 Dogs says, just finished listening to the latest episode. The best part must be when they crap all over WAR because they don't know how it's calculated, but then proceed to use other advanced metrics, which they also probably don't know how they're calculated, to discuss other players. So, for anybody who didn't catch last Friday's episode, just some context to this comment. Yes, I crapped all over WAR as a stat or a metric. And then later in the episode, we did discuss Teoscar Hernandez defensively being competent and said that the defensive metrics backed that up, right?
Yes.
Corroborated that opinion.
So before you keep going, I do want to say a few things here. Number one, wins above replacement. I actually do like wins above replacement. And I'll let you take over here. But just because we don't know how it's calculated, like I understand the value of trying to put a number to all of these intangibles so that you can kind of look at a column on a graph and be like, okay, this is how the players rank. I love that that's something baseball has attempted and has even kind of done. However, and I'll let you take over here, the calculations on WAR, Adam, are they hard numbers? Is this a math
No,
thing?
this is where WAR is stupid, okay? And I do agree with you that, like, look, I would be lying if I didn't say, yeah, do I hit sort on the WAR column from time to time? Yeah, of course I do, right? When we're talking about Vladdy and Shohei Ohtani and who's going to be the MVP, right? That's the easy selection as well. Who's got the higher WAR, right?
Yeah.
But it's not calculated. Like, literally, it's not calculated. There's no, like, a lot of these sabermetrics that are like a weird combination where like they try and weight the value of a hit, right? Where like a hit versus a double versus a triple versus a hit that advances the runners, they all get scored differently and have a different, decimal point fraction of like, okay, well, this was an out, but it wasn't a double play and a runner scored and a thing happened over here. And, it was a bad at bat, but he took 10 pitches to strike out. So that's a better strikeout than a 3-pitch strikeout. And like all these things go into those calculations, and those are calculations. So that's cool. Complicated calculations, sure. But WAR is just a opinion, and it's not even the same from like website to website. So whether you're on Fangraphs or whether you're on MLB.com or whether you're on bobsrankings.ca,
whatever it
everybody's got their own WAR formula, and I think formula is even too generous of a term because again, there's no formula. It is just it's not objective. It's subjective in the way power rankings are, where like Blue Jays are the number 2 team in baseball according to power rankings, and it's like it's just someone of authority made that opinion. And I feel like WAR is exactly the same way. It's like a star system with decimal points. Might as well be like a sliding scale of emojis, right? Of like anger to smiling or laughing emoji, and like where do they slot in here? It's stupid. Do I use it? Unfortunately, yes. But it is just kind of arbitrary, like, well, let's look at who's having a good season and give them a number next to it.
You even put it best. It's kind of a vibe stat.
Yeah, it's a vibe stat, exactly. Like it just is not calculated. So if anybody wants to come at me and go hypocrite because I crapped all over WAR when I don't know how it's calculated, well, guess what? It's not calculated. So I rest my case, I guess, is the point there.
And listen, I'm not a stat head. Okay, so, and this is where I think we might get under some people's skins, because there are stat heads out there who know every little, who just live and die by the numbers. And that is completely fine, because there is half of Major League Baseball that does that.
Yeah.
I think there is something to be said for the eye test, but it's definitely not the be-all, end-all. And when we bring up defensive metrics, let me tell you right now, like, defensive runs saved, there's an actual formula to it. The numbers are a little bit, and you brought it up, Adam, right? Like all of these stats, it's why old people love ERA. It is so
simple,
hard and fast.
Yeah.
These are the numbers. This is what was completed. Forget about all of the outside forces, the field, the time of day, all this stuff, right? It's just like, this is what happened. Now, FIP is, which is kind of the idea of ERA, but taking in these outside forces, right? So like
ballpark dimensions.
As a front office, you should 100% be looking at FIP, because you don't wish to undervalue a pitcher just because they're pitching
in Colorado.
Exactly. Or the Guardians and the team sucks. So there is value in these stats that try to boil all of these things down to one number so that you can easily make a decision. This guy's better than this guy, that guy's better than that guy, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of these aren't hard stats.
No.
And I understand why the youth gets frustrated with old man baseball, right? Because everyone, some old people put so much. I even value RBIs probably more than I should, right? Batting average still means something to me.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. But it is definitely not the be-all, end-all. I mean, RBIs is, I think, a simple stat to point out how broken old stats are, because, RBIs are so dependent on the team around you, right? Like,
Yeah.
if
I mean,
you're
let's be
hitting
serious.
well, but you don't have good hitters getting on base in front of you, you're not going to lead the league in RBIs, right? Whereas you can hit
Yeah.
above average and have base runners on all the time and lead the league in RBIs.
I mean, the Tampa Bay Rays prove time and time again that these advanced stats mean something.
Yes.
And that they can find value in players that nobody else is finding. However, I still believe there is value also in the hard numbers, right? So,
you know what we should do? I know you're not a stat head. I'm clearly not a stat head. Joel, Hey Kami.
Yes,
Everybody loves
Hey
Hey Kami. We need to get Hey Kami on here for like a special episode to just maybe break down
That's
some
a
of these
great
new
idea.
stats, how they're calculated, and I'll just be the surrogate for all the dumb old fans who are like kind of intimidated by FIP and WOBA and OPS plus and all these things. And then
DRS and
and I can argue with them about, okay, well, how much of a vibe is this and how real is this, right? And we can break it down from there. So maybe that's something we got to do. So let us know in the comments if that's something you want to see. If you want to see Hey Kami come on and give us all a lesson on some of these advanced metrics. But is that enough for here? Can we move on?
Yeah.
Okay. I love the pause for suspense. I was really not sure if you had something else to. Are you just wicked behind me, delayed now?
No, I'm all good. We're good.
Okay, I think our viewers on YouTube are going to disagree.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know what to tell them.
That's fine. I just have like a 3 count before you're responding. So, but that's okay. Let's move on now. So we've got
my internet was freezing for a second. It's smooth. It's clear now. We're good. Okay. My apologies that I threw you off there because you were nailing it. Your timing was great. I was right there with you. And now we got to reset. Hard reset here.
All right. Well, support us on Patreon so that Scott can upgrade his computer and his internet. And that's the best way we can fix that. All right. So David Cook on YouTube. Now moving on. Says,
tell me this is a positive.
Well, depends on your.
Okay.
So it's not a heat at us, but it is kind of wish we didn't trade Reese now that Jensen is down for a week. So
I don't know. I'm not gonna lie. I think that Zach Collins is a wash with Reese McGuire. I really don't see that much value in Reese McGuire. His defensive play was good. Lefty bat, so Zach Collins.
Yeah.
McGuire's defense was probably a little better than Collins, but marginally. I don't think Reese McGuire is a number 1 catcher. I think he's a fringe backup catcher. I don't know. I'm not disagreeing with, what was his first name there? Cook?
David
Cook. I'm not disagreeing with David. It would be nice if, I don't know, maybe I am. It's like Reese McGuire. Who cares?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel the same way. Didn't feel like a major downgrade getting Collins. Collins has options. I am sad that Jensen is on the IL with the oblique strain. It is a concern. The Jays did add Tyler Heinemann, I think off waivers. We had a comment from Discord that I think sums this up pretty well. And the comment
Heinemann was go ahead. Sorry.
So the comment from this, you got to get your internet sorted out, buddy. Anyways.
Really? Okay.
Oh, you're so far behind. Watch this back and anyways. So Badger from Discord says, "Who the hell is Tyler Heinemann?" And Forbesy responded with, "Heinemann is an AI generated player in MLB The Show." And that feels accurate. I mean, whatever. Heinemann is 1,000 times better at baseball than I am, so I'll acknowledge that right off the top before anybody shits on me for critiquing Tyler Heinemann. Heinemann's switch hitting, so there's value there. I guess for me, if I'm reading the tea leaves on adding Tyler Heinemann, I don't know if this says more about Danny Jansen being out long term or their lack of confidence in Kirk and Collins.
I think that the extra spot, right? Like 28-man roster, they were carrying 3 catchers anyways. I think that they're not sure about Kirk taking the lead as first number 1 catcher yet. Mm-hmm. So maybe that way bringing up Heinemann, who they brought up from AAA Buffalo, by the way. And
Was he already in the system?
Yeah, he was in the system. So they brought him up from Buffalo, which there's a few things I do like about this, okay? Like, I like that Chris Beck is now going to be given some time as the number 1 catcher in Buffalo. I know Gabriel Moreno was just added to the Bisons. He was having some, oh my God, getting into the country. What's that? Passport issues or whatever it was. Yeah. And I think that, it's just a little bit of insulation, a little bit of depth. I think Heinemann won't be on this team very long. They're just waiting out Jensen's injury.
Are you worried about Jensen's injury long term?
Of course.
Here's the context. It's an oblique strain. Anybody who followed the Blue Jays and George Springer last year knows that can just be something that lingers. I'm not worried yet.
I mean, we were bit last year, right? There is reason for concern. George Springer missed half the season because of an oblique strain and oblique trouble.
Here's what I'll say as far as my concern with Jensen. There was a chance he didn't go on the IL. Right? When they got the results of the MRI back, they decided, let's put him on the IL for 10 days. I think maybe this is the optimist in me, and I'm almost never optimistic. I think he's close. I'm going to say I have zero concern, but I will be watching. Mm-hmm. So if he has another IL stint with this same situation at any point this year, my level of concern will quickly creep closer to 10. Pretty drastically.
My only concern is that catching is such a physical position, and that he's crouching and using his oblique all the time. So if it's just a strain, they definitely need to make sure that it is 100% before he goes back, right? So we'll see how it all plays out. Right now he is on the 10-day IL, so he can't come off of that until I think it was April 21st, I think, is when he's due to come off. So
okay. I will just say this is not breaking news, but I did message with Danny this morning about his injury. Said, I hope it's nothing serious. And he said, thanks, guys. Hopefully be back at it soon. So not really anything there, but he is hopeful and encouraged. So I'm going to remain hopeful and encouraged. So shout out to MVD. Let's get those chants going.
That's
Most
right.
valuable Danny. All right. Let's move on slightly now. Related to that news and the one bad taco that Danny Jensen has eaten. Josh Palacios, friend of the show, DFA'd as part of the roster management and the shuffle that had to go on here. So
I was a little surprised to see he was designated for assignment, just because that the Blue Jays, and we've talked about this before, if there is an Achilles heel, it's a lack of outfield depth, which they did address. And maybe this is why they did put Josh Palacios on waivers, is that they brought in Bradley Zimmer, who is now going to be their 4th or 5th outfielder. He's on the team currently. Dexter Fowler currently is playing in AAA, getting his baseball legs back under him. I think there is a little bit of insular depth now that didn't exist before. And Josh Palacio, and I really like Josh, but he's a guy that I think his ceiling is probably 4th outfielder. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have, and you mentioned this before we hit record, he doesn't really have any tools that are top-notch tools. He's just a solid all-around guy, versatile, can play all 3 outfield positions. He does make a lot of contact. He's not got a ton of power. He's going to hit the odd ball out. Is he ever going to be a regular in the outfield or on a team in the major leagues? I hope so, but I wouldn't bet on it.
I feel like if he was born in a different era, would have thrived in the MLB. Right? But just the way that the analytics and whatever you want to call it is so focused on like no, we need a guy with elite power, or we need a guy with elite speed, or we need a guy with elite defense, and we can fill in the holes around it, right? Like if he's just a great hitter, terrible at defense, we'll figure it out. We'll platoon him. We'll cover him with DH opportunities, everything like that, right? Josh Palacios is a really, really, really good ball player.
He is.
But doesn't have elite in any of those areas. And I think that the way baseball is operated today doesn't favor a guy like that, unfortunately. So
I give it more than 50% that he is claimed off of waivers. I think his tenure with the Jays may very well be over here, which might be good news for him as a player, because if you look at this outfield, Lourdes Gurriel Jr. is going nowhere, and he has looked really good defensively in left. I mean, he made that play in the opening day that is just iconic now, and everyone has a gif of him making that catch and screaming with his legs open and sitting on his butt just like, yeah, right? George Springer, obviously no one's dethroning him. Teoscar Hernandez still under contract for another 2 years, and he has been phenomenal. I mean, he's probably the most underrated ball player in the majors right now. So is there room for a Josh Palacios on this team? Probably not. So maybe this is the best thing for his career.
How old is Josh?
Josh is 26.
So be 28 by the time any opening in the outfield maybe
truly
comes
exists,
up.
Yes.
That's if we don't keep Teoscar, right? So, yeah, I mean, maybe that is the best option for his career as he is getting older. Yeah.
I mean, we wish him all the best.
Absolutely.
I hope he does catch on somewhere and really nails it. But
as long as he doesn't go to the Yankees, I don't want to have to cheer against.
Good Lord. It just seems like every time the Jays lose somebody, he goes to the Yankees.
All right, let's move on from there now. So a couple last things to get to. I know we're pushing 35 plus minutes at this point, but so this one comes in from Twitter. Jays for Days said, "Holy crap, boys! Maybe all this hype you've been putting on Manoah is legit. When Craig Ballard said on Long Toss that he expects him to get Cy Young votes this year, I thought he was crazy. Now I'm like, Craig's a genius."
I love baseball fans so much. Number one, let's start. First start. One start, and one start has changed at Jays for Days' opinion on Craig Ballard's take on Cy Young votes. One start. He's like, okay, Craig's a genius.
New ace. Yeah, Craig's a genius.
Which we'll pass on to Craig.
Yeah.
He'll like to hear that for sure. But I'm kind of on that side too, man. I am pumped for Alek Manoah and the 2022 season. I really think that he is going to open some eyes around Major League Baseball. Obviously, the hype for him in Toronto has already been through the roof. And there aren't many Blue Jays fans out there that don't see anything but the sky as the peak for this guy, right? Like, he truly could be an elite pitcher, a guy who is a top 10 starter in the majors. But also, let's hit the brakes a little. All right, thoughts on that? Like, this, he hasn't even played a full season.
Well, I will say this. I am a big believer in Alek Manoah. Incredibly proud of all that he's done in the short time that he's done it. All the expectations that fans had placed on Nate Pearson being the next great Blue Jays horse in that rotation. Yeah. I mean, Nate's had his own difficulties. We're not giving up on Nate yet, but Manoah came, not, I don't want to say out of nowhere, but really burst onto the radar in a big way and just has done everything that, like, best case scenario we had been hoping to get from Nate Pearson for the last 3-4 years. Like, by now, 3-4 years we've been talking, Nate Pearson by 2022 could be this guy, right? And now Alek Manoah has done that. Right?
I think he nailed it, man, because I truly believe that if Nate Pearson was just mimicking Alek Manoah's numbers currently, we'd be just as excited and be like, hey, we told you he's a star. So it's kind of a big deal that Manoah did step up and take that spot, you know? Like, where would this team be without Alek Manoah right now? Where would this team have been without Alek Manoah in July of 2021? Kind of up shit creek without a paddle, right? Like, he really stepped in and allowed this starting rotation to settle down when it was very much so on a rocky boat.
Well, so Alek Manoah for Cy Young votes, that's where I tap the brakes a little bit. Mm-hmm. I don't know if he's Cy Young votes this year or not. I think maybe an All-Star game appearance could be in Alek Manoah's future this year. Cy Young is pretty exceptional.
It is, and honestly, here's the thing with this. I truly think that he will get Cy Young votes.
Okay.
But my reason for saying pump the brakes is less about him not getting Cy Young votes and maybe just all this added pressure getting in his head a little bit. Now, that said, if Manoah has done anything, it is impress us with his mental acumen and his ability to take big game and big moments and hype and pressure and compartmentalize it, put it aside, and still come out and be exceptional. So I don't see why that would change. But he is still a 24-year-old kid, and I do get nervous when I hear everyone talking Cy Young, and I'm just like, oh, don't listen, Alek. Like,
well, I mean, he wouldn't be the first 24-year-old to get Cy Young votes, so it's not like unheard of, right?
No, it's not unheard of. Absolutely.
I will say Alek Manoah versus the Yankees, that's the kind of game you take a day off of work to make sure you get to see.
Give that to me every day, yes.
All right. So big game from Alek Manoah yesterday. Good to see. Struggled in was it the fourth or the fifth inning? Struggled with walks a little bit, but otherwise, as good of an outing as you could ask for.
And then bailed out on that bases loaded ground ball by Bo Bichette. My goodness, just a beaut. One of the best plays I've seen Bo Bichette make in his career. Just going the other way, spinning, throwing the ball, no bounce, just on a rope. To Vladdy. Loved it.
Yeah, I mean, Bo Bichette is looking good this year. He did have the one gaff where it was kind of a glove hand side, did the old Olay. That's a little bit of youth maybe on that, peeking out on that play. But otherwise, I think we've all been pretty impressed with Bo this year. For sure, his arm looks better than ever. So, if nothing else, I'm happy to see the arm is looking like he for sure has the arm strength to play shortstop. I think that was the biggest question mark. His entire minor league career was maybe better suited to second base without the arm strength. But I'm seeing arm strength now. So
100%. And Matt Chapman covering more ground on that left side of the infield has helped him a lot too, right?
Big time.
Because he doesn't need to quite worry. I mean, let's face it, third base was such a hole last year for this team that it did nothing but put added pressure on Bo to cover more ground and make more plays that maybe now he can just concentrate on where he should be and know that his third baseman has it.
All right. 2 more comments here. This one comes from Scott McCutcheon on YouTube. Also wanted to chime in on our little scheduling fiasco with last week's episode of Long Toss. So Scott says, I too was also annoyed Sunday night trying to find Long Toss and not being able to. 6 p.m. Sunday is usually family dinner time. Later in the evening is better for my personal schedule, and I have been loving the show. So thanks for the love, Scott. We did experiment with some scheduling and the way we are releasing the Long Toss episode a little bit last week. So we had just been leaving it up as a live that people could catch whenever worked for them, but going with the YouTube algorithm, it kind of just goes into like a no man's land to die. It doesn't really get pushed out to a new audience. So what we do now is we're still live every Sunday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern. But then the live goes dark. We take it down essentially, and we re-release it Monday morning for everybody. and that seems to be working for us. So what we're doing and what we started with this past Sunday is, rather than taking the live stream down altogether and making it inaccessible, is we've just delisted it. So if you go to our page and you're searching for it, you won't find it anymore. But if you have that URL for it, you're still able to see it. So it just kind of makes it like an added layer of privacy. And we do share that link in our Discord. And the Discord's free. So if you're like, I need long toss, but I'd rather watch it at 10 p.m., just join the Discord. It's free. The link will be there, and you can still watch it at 10 p.m. Sunday or whatever works best for you.
Easy to find. It'll be right under the long toss tab.
Yeah.
It won't be a problem for you.
Okay, so that's that. Now we're going to close the show with a comment about the closer role for the Toronto Blue Jays. So Darren messaged me on Instagram and said, expected to see Tim Meza in the 9th inning last night, with the left-handed Joey Gallo leading off the inning. Lefty versus lefty there, Scott. He says, instead, we were treated to another great inning from the Markham Madman. By the way, that's your nickname for him, and I'm glad to see that's catching on. So that's 3 saves. That's 3 saves in 4 games to start the season. Can we put to bed the idea that the Blue Jays are going closer by committee as they did in years past? Is this his job now? Is he the closer?
A few things to unpack here. Number one, absolutely. No way Jordan Romano isn't the closer on this team, or at least the guy with the highest leverage innings.
Okay.
So there may be times when this team's back's against the wall in the 8th and we see Jordan Romano. 100%. Because I do trust Tim Meza. I do trust Jimmy Garcia. I think that these are very capable, high leverage guys. Okay? But yeah, I think Jordan Romano is going to get the majority of saves. On top of 3 saves in 4 days, Romano also just tied a franchise record with 26 consecutive saves, which was last held by Tom Hankey, who is no joke himself. So Jordan Romano could very well become the new saves consecutive record holder for this team, which would be incredibly impressive. And I know we both kind of feel this way. I think that this is going to be the year that Jordan Romano kind of bumps himself up into that upper echelon reliever, the Liam Hendricks type reliever.
Yeah, absolutely. Right there with you. I mean, when we did our bold predictions on Long Toss 2 weeks ago, that was my call. Was I expected a big season out of Danny Jensen, so toot my own horn there. Jordan Romano, I think, is in the conversation of elite closers after this year.
He's going to be given plenty of opportunity to collect saves. He very well could hit 40 to 50 saves this year, which is, again, elite.
Yeah. Love to see it. I think the Jays are going to lean into that, too. Being the hometown boy that he is, I think there's like a real value there in having, this kid from Toronto be like in such a prominent role and dominating, right? Like, I don't know, a 3-0 lead in the 9th against the Yankees, not necessarily a high leverage or the high, it's not a 1-run lead in the 9th facing, Stanton and Judge. It would have been a good opportunity to go with Meza, right? Like, Romano has been pitching a lot so far. 3 appearances in 4 games would have been a good opportunity to give him a day off and bring in a Meza. But I do think, like, anytime it is technically a save opportunity, I think every single time, or 95% of the time, we're going to see Jordan Romano going out there. So I do think that there is an interest to get him a big season, and I'm all for it.
As long as he's not being overworked, I'm all for it. Yeah. Send him out there every opportunity within reason.
All right, well, that's all we got for Mailbag this week. We do have our live stream tonight.
Yes.
So we've got Kikuchi taking the mound against the Yankees. You're not joining us for this.
No, I'm on the road.
You are traveling to Edmonton. You'll be mid-airport while the game is on. But that's exciting because you've got your first comedy album that you're recording,
album recording in Edmonton at the Grindstone Theater on Thursday. So if there are Edmontonians watching and want to come support, that would be awesome. Also, a quick heads up too, I know we were supposed to interview Jeff Blair yesterday. So for everyone who had submitted questions and all that, Jeff Blair is still coming on the show. However, it's going to be next Monday. So we're kind of doing double duty with Jeff Blair and Danny Jensen on Monday.
Busy days.
We'll go. Busy days.
We'll make it work. We'll make it work for you guys. You guys are the best. We do still have the stream tonight, though. Hey, Kami, Joel is going to stand in for Scott. So I will be there. No pizza for me today, so I won't have to leave. But yeah, Joel and I will take a Tuesday night live stream, and we'll go from there. So join us for the live stream tonight. It's a lot of fun.
Awesome. We'll see you all Friday. Twitter, you can follow us at Walk Off Podcast, the Walk Off Podcast on Instagram. Thanks again, everybody, for all of the interaction, comments, questions, hitting that like button, hit and subscribe. It's all appreciated. All the best.